Hi guys, so we are here with Year 1 Maths New Learning Lesson. It's Lesson 5 and we're going to be looking at fractions. Okay, we're looking at the fractions. You may remember doing this in reception. We'll find out. Right, so first of all, children, we're going to be using this important word again during this lesson. What does the word equal mean? What does the word equal mean? Have a think. I bet you know. The word equal means the same as. So if something is equal, it has to be exactly the same as something else. Okay? Right. Well done, guys. Okay, guys. So first of all, I would like you to get a square piece of paper. Now remember that a square's sides are all the same length. Now you may need to ask an adult to check that your piece of paper is a square, but you might want to ask them to help you make a square. Okay, so you're going to need a square. So all the sides need to be the same length. Now when you've made your square piece of paper, I would like you to share that piece of paper between you and your adult. Okay, so you need to share your piece of paper. You need to cut it, you need to fold it or cut it equally into two pieces. Okay, two equal pieces, two pieces that are the same. Okay, and what I would do, children, is I would fold your piece of paper. Okay, how could you fold the piece of paper so you get two pieces, two sides that are the same? Have a think. How could you do that? Right, so now obviously I can't fold pieces of paper on here, but I'm going to show you how you could have made two equal sides, how you could have made two pieces. Now, by making two pieces, by folding your piece of paper, you've created two pieces. So if we have a look here on this one, here they've got one piece here and one piece here. Okay, so they've cut the piece of paper into equal parts, into two equal parts. Now, children, when we cut something into two equal parts, we cut it into halves. So here, this orange piece, this is a half. Okay, and the other side is a half. Okay, and it's the same for the girl. Okay, there's one half and there's the other half. When you cut something into two equal pieces, you cut it into halves. And you can see here, it's another way that they've cut their square into halves. They've folded it diagonally. Now I wonder, what different ways can you fold your square piece of paper to make halves, to make two equal pieces, to make halves? See if you can have a go, guys. See if you can find some different ways of folding the paper to make two equal pieces to make halves. You might want to have more than one piece of squared paper. Okay, children, so pause the video and have a go. Right, guys, so now I wish I could do this, but I'm not clever enough to put a video into my PowerPoint. I need to find out how to do that. But I have a square on the screen, okay? And I would show you where the crease would be if I'd folded my piece of paper. So if I'd folded my piece of paper there, look, I've got one half of the piece of paper there, and I've got the other half of the piece of paper there. And if I put both my halves, if I add both the halves together, I get my whole piece of paper. Okay, so when we put two equal halves together, it makes a whole. It makes a whole. Okay, so when we add this half and we put it next to this half, we have our whole again. Okay, so if we cut a piece of paper equally into two pieces, those two pieces are called halves. Halves. Shall we see if we can find another way that we could have folded or cut the piece of paper to make halves. I wonder if you found another way. Let's have a look. So you could fold it this way. Okay, children, so you could fold it this way. If you haven't already done that, can you have a go? See if you can fold it so that the crease, okay, the line going through your paper is there. And look, again, you've got one half here and another half here. You've got two equal halves. Okay, shall we see if we can find another way of making halves? Okay, I wonder if you found any other ways. So we could fold our square piece of paper diagonally, and then we'd have two triangle halves. And if we put those two triangle halves together, it would make a whole, make a square. Okay, and there's another way we could do it. We could fold it the other way diagonally. And again, we have one half, then we have the other half. And those two halves put together make the whole. So we are looking at making equal halves. When we split something in half, okay, when we split it in half, we get two equal pieces. We get one half and we get another half. Okay, children, so now I'd like you to have a go at activity sheet 1. Okay, if you're able to print it out, that's brilliant, because you can print it out and then you can cut out the shapes. Okay, if you can't print it out, you can do it on the screen with me and we'll have a think. Okay, so what we're going to do, children, is we have some shapes on our screen, and if you've got your sheets, you'll have some shapes on your piece of paper. If you have your piece of paper with the shapes on, I'd like you to cut those pieces of those shapes out. Cut the shapes out. Now, when you've cut the shapes out, you need to then cut the shapes into two equal halves. That means that you should have two pieces, and if they're equal, it means they're exactly the same. So both sides, both parts, both halves will be exactly the same. Okay, so you can have a go. You can pause the video, okay, and you can have a go at cutting those shapes into halves. Now, if you want a challenge, there is more than one way of cutting them into halves. So you could print out another set of shapes and try cutting them into different halves. Well, some shapes can be cut into different halves. Have a go. Okay, guys, so let's have a look at how we could cut these shapes into two halves. So first of all, we're going to start with the shape, and it has four equal sides, four sides that are the same length. Can you remember what that shape is called? It's got four sides, four corners, and all the sides are the same length. It's a square. So here is our square. So let's see how we could cut the square into two halves, into two equal parts. So one way we could do it is we could fold it this way, or we could cut it straight down the middle there. And then we've got two halves. So maybe you've done that. Maybe you did it another way. Maybe you did it this way. Because again, you'll have two parts, two halves that are exactly the same. You could have done it another way though. You could do it this way, and you'd have made two triangles. Okay, two triangles, two halves that are exactly the same. And if you put them back together, it will make your square, your whole. And you could have done it the other way. But again, you've got two halves, two parts that are exactly the same. And what you can do to check they're exactly the same is you can put your two parts on top of each other. Okay, and if they meet exactly, that means the parts are exactly the same. Shall we have a look now, children, at another shape that has four sides and four corners, but not all the sides are the same length? We call it a rectangle. Here's our rectangle. Now I wonder, how did you cut your rectangle into two halves, into two equal pieces, into two equal parts? Okay, so let's see. Did you find this way? You could fold it down the middle that way and you'd have two equal halves. Maybe you found a different way. Did you find you could fold it this way? And look, you get 2 equal halves. Okay, so they're the 2 ways I found to fold the rectangle, so you get 2 equal halves. Now the triangle. Okay, the triangle. I found one way of folding it into halves. I'm not sure if there are any other ways. If you found a different way, you could show me. You could take a picture and show me. But I found you could fold it into 2 equal halves this way. So where we've got 1 half, and we could fold it and it would sit exactly on top of the other half. And we'd know that they are 2 equal parts. They're 2 halves. Halves. And those 2 halves make 1 whole. Now, the circle is an interesting one. Here's our circle. It's got 1 curved side. It's got no corners. Now, what way did you cut your circle so that it had 2 halves? I did it like this and like this. And I wonder, could you find some other ways of folding your circle to make 2 equal halves? I think you'll find there's lots of different ways you could fold it and still get 2 equal halves. Well done, children. Okay, children, so let's have a look at this guided practice together. Let's have a look at this guided practice together. Now, number 1 says, which of these show halves? Now, we know that halves, 2 halves, must be equal. They must be exactly the same. Okay, they must be exactly the same, our 2 halves. Now, we have a look at this one here. Has that been cut into halves? Has it been cut into halves? Has it been cut into 2 equal pieces? Yes, it has. So I'm going to give it a tick. Now, if we look at this one here, has this been cut into 2 equal halves? Are the 2 pieces equal? Are they the same size? No, that's not been cut into halves because the 2 pieces, the 2 parts are not the same. Okay, they're not equal. Right, let's have a look at this triangle. This is a trickier one, isn't it? I think it's difficult to say. I think, yes, it has been cut into halves, hasn't it? Because this half is the same as this half. And if we folded it, it would fold on each other. So that has been cut into 2 equal halves. What about this one over here, though? Has this been cut into halves, 2 equal halves? No. How many parts are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's been cut into fourths. We call that quarters. So that's not been cut into halves. No. Has this been cut into halves? Could we cut the pieces and then they'd fit on top of each other exactly? I think yes. I think they've been cut into equal halves. Right. Let's have a look at this one's definitely been cut into equal halves, hasn't it? 2 equal halves. So as this one has 2 equal halves. Now this one, if we cut it up, would it sit on itself? You could check this one for me, children. If you get a square piece of paper and you draw this line, could you see if it creates 2 equal halves? I think it probably would, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm honest. I think it would, because if you cut it, then turned it round, the 2 pieces should sit on top of each other. So I think it is. But this one over here, has this one been cut into halves? No. How many parts are there? There's 1, 2, 3. It's been cut into 3 pieces, but they're not equal, are they? And the parts have to be the same. Okay, children. So we've been looking at how we can split shapes into halves, how we can fold or cut shapes into 2 equal parts, 2 equal halves. And we know when we put those 2 parts, those 2 halves together, we get a whole shape. Now, let's have a look. I'd like you to have a go at activity sheet 2. If you can print it out and have a go with an adult or have a go independently on your own, you can do that. Okay. If you can't, guys, we can have a go together. That's fine. Okay, if you're going to have a go on your own, you can pause the video. All right, guys, so let's see how we could fold our shapes into 2 equal halves. Now, I think it's easiest, children, by making sure that we can fold the shape in half. I know we've got lots of little squares on here, but we can remember how we can fold the shape in half. Now, I know I need to have 2 equal pieces. I know I could fold my shape down here. Now, it would be a straight line, wouldn't it, children, if I had a ruler, but I haven't got a ruler. And I think that these 2 halves are exactly the same. So this is 1 half. All of this side, I can't colour it all in, but you know what I mean. And then we have this half is exactly the same. Okay, now we know that both those halves are the same because we can check they have the same number of squares in them. So this half, let's show that line again. Oh, goodness me, this is quite tricky. Right, so this half is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 squares on this side. And if both sides are exactly the same, this side should have 8 squares. Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, both parts are equal. They've been cut into halves. So it's been cut into 2 equal halves. Could you do it another way, children? Have a look, because we've got another square here. Could we fold it another way to get halves? Yes, we could, children. We could fold it going along like this. Okay. And again, if we counted how many squares, okay, remember they need to have the same amount of little squares on both sides to be equal. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on this side. So there must be 8 on the other side so that they're the same, they're equal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So it has been cut into 2 equal parts, and 2 equal parts means it has been cut into halves, 2 halves. Now the rectangle, let's have a look at the rectangle. How could we fold our rectangle? Have a look, see if the lines can help you. We want to cut it into 2 halves, 2 equal pieces. I would do it going along here. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side. That's a good way of checking, isn't it? Okay, so those parts are halves. They're equal halves because they're exactly the same. Now, I was looking at this and I was like, how could I do it a different way? And I found quite a clever way. Because we know that both parts, both halves, need to have 5 little squares in them. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to go across and then down. So then here we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 on this part, on this half, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this half. If you cut it down that line and you turned it round, they would both sit on each other, and you'd know the halves are exactly the same. Right, half of a triangle. Hi, children. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part of our maths lesson today. We've just looked at halves. When you cut something, when you can cut a shape into 2 equal pieces, 2 pieces that are the same, exactly the same. Now we're going to look at quarters. Quarters. Now I would like you to get a piece of A4 paper, a normal piece of paper, and we're going to pretend it's a cake. And I want you to fold the cake, fold the piece of paper, or fold the cake I'm pretending it's a cake, or cut it. Okay, I want you to fold or cut it so that you get 4 equal pieces. Not 2 halves, not 2 pieces. We want to cut it into 4 equal pieces. 4 pieces that are the same size. Okay, so can you get a piece of paper and have a go at doing that for me, children? You could either fold it or you could get a ruler and you can cut it. But remember, the pieces have to be the same. Okay, we need 4 equal pieces. Okay, so you can pause the video and have a go at doing that, children. Okay, guys, so did you try and cut your piece of paper into 4 equal pieces? Okay, maybe you tried it with more than one piece of paper. Maybe you tried to find different ways you could cut the paper or fold the paper to make 4 equal pieces. Let's have a look at some of the ways I found the 4 equal pieces. So, oh look, here, what have I cut my rectangle into at the moment? How many pieces are there? How many parts? At the moment there are 2 parts. So at the moment I've cut it into halves, but I want to cut it into 4 equal pieces. Okay, so let's add another line. Oh, and another one. Here I've cut it into 4 equal pieces. These 4 equal pieces are all the same. Okay, they're all the same. And if something is cut into 4 equal pieces, we say it is cut into quarters. Okay, so 4 equal pieces, 4 pieces that are the same size, that have been cut up, we call them quarters. And when you put these 4 pieces back together, okay, it makes a whole. Makes a whole. Did you find a different way of cutting or folding the paper to make quarters, to make 4 equal pieces? Let's have a look. So we could have one line there. Okay, we could cut it there. Oh, then cut that bit in half, and then cut that bit in half. Oh, look, then we have 4 equal pieces, 4 equal parts, and we call them 4 quarters. And if we put the quarters back together again, it would make our whole. Okay, children, so here are 2 of the ways that we cut the cake, the piece of paper, into quarters, into 4 equal parts. Did you find any other ways of cutting the paper into 4 equal parts? If you do, if you have, you could take a picture for me and post it so I could see. I know there are some other ways of cutting it into 4 equal parts, but remember, for them to be quarters, for them to be the 4 parts have to be equal. They have to be equal. Okay, guys, right. So when we cut something into quarters, into 4 pieces, 4 equal parts, it means it's in 4 equal parts. Okay, so we've cut it into 4 equal parts. So we'd say that this young lady here, she's got 1/4 of a cake, and we write it like this, 1/4. She's got 1 piece out of 4. She's got 1/4. This young man, he gets a quarter. He gets 1 piece out of 4. This young lady here, there's her quarter, her equal piece. So she has 1/4. She's got 1 piece out of 4. And then look, the 4th boy has got his quarter, his 1 part out of 4. They've each got a quarter. They've each got 1 part out of 4. Okay, so they've each got 1/4, and when we put those 4 quarters back together, it would make our cake. So 4 quarters makes 1 whole. Now we can also call a quarter a 4th. A 4th, okay? Because we've cut it into 4 pieces. So this boy here has 1/4, or we could say 1/4. This young lady has 1/4 of the cake, or 1/4 of the cake. This young man with the glasses, he's got 1/4 of the cake, 1/4 of the cake. And the blonde-headed girl, she's got 1/4 of the cake, 1/4 of the cake. And if we put all those quarters back together, we'd get our whole cake. And we can see it here. Here are the children, and you can see the blonde-headed girl. That's how we write 1/4. She's got 1 piece of the cake, and there are 4 pieces of the cake altogether, because the cake's been split into 4 pieces, 4 quarters. So she gets 1 piece out of 4, 1/4 out of the 4. The young man gets another 1/4, 1 out of the 4. Then the young lady here with the brown hair, she gets 1/4, 1 piece out of the 4 pieces, so she gets 1/4. And then the young boy here with the ginger hair, he gets 1/4, 1 piece out of 4. And if we put those 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters back together, we'd have a whole cake. You can see here, if we added our 4 quarters, our 4 pieces together, we'd get a whole. Okay guys, I'm going to give you a challenge now. I would like you to get a square piece of paper again, square piece of paper. And remember that a square's sides are all the same length. They're equal. So you could ask an adult to check your piece of paper is a square, or they may be able to help you make a piece of paper that is shaped like a square. Okay? Now, when you've got your square, I would like you to share the square piece of paper, to share your square into 4 equal pieces. And because you're sharing it into 4 equal pieces, you're sharing it into quarters. Can you do that for me, children? Have a go at doing that. If you haven't got a piece of paper, children, have a look at the square on the screen and think, where could you draw the lines, okay, to get 4 quarters, 4 equal pieces? Have a go for me, children. Okay, guys, so let's have a look. How could I cut my piece of paper or fold it so that I get 4 equal pieces? How do I get quarters? So here, if I fold my piece of paper down here, at the moment I've got 2 parts of a whole, so they are halves. But if I fold my paper again along here, how many parts have I got now? I've got, let's count. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 parts that are exactly the same. What do we call them? Quarters. Okay, here's 1/4. That's 1 piece. Here's my next piece. Here's my 3rd piece. Here's my 4th piece. I've cut it into quarters. Did you find another way that you could cut your square into quarters? Let's have a look. Or you might want to get a different piece of square paper and try and fold it a different way or cut it a different way so you can get 4 quarters. I did it this way. So I could fold it along there, fold it diagonally, and then I need to fold it diagonally again. And if I open it up, or if I've cut it out, now I've got 4 equal pieces. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 quarters. Those quarters. They're quarters because I have 4 equal parts. And if I put them back together, it would make a whole. Shall we see if we can find another way, children? So I could fold it here, here, and here. And look, the pieces, if we cut it out along those lines, those parts, those quarters would be equal. Okay, and they must be equal. They must be the same. Okay, so we've got one, oh, where's it gone? Sorry, children, you saw we had 4 equal parts. And then we could do it the other way. We could have one line here, one line there, one line there. And again, we've folded it into 4 equal parts, okay, into quarters. And when we put those quarters back together, it makes a whole. Okay, guys, so now you could have a go at activity 3, the sheet's activity 3. And on that sheet, there are some shapes that you can cut out. And I want to see if you can cut those shapes into quarters or fold them into quarters. If we cut them or fold them into quarters, what does that mean? It means that it needs to be cut into 4 equal pieces. 4 pieces, 4 parts that are exactly the same. Quarters are 4 equal parts. Have a go at doing that, children. Then maybe you could show your adults and they could check, are your 4 pieces equal? Have they been cut into quarters? 4 quarters. If you put them back together, it makes a whole. Okay, guys, so let's have a look at our guided practice. Let's have a go at doing this together. So it asks us, number 1, it says, which of these shows quarters? Well, what do we know about quarters? Quarters is when there's 4 equal parts. There has to be 4 equal parts. Right, has this one here, has this triangle been cut into 4 equal parts? No, it's been cut into 2 equal parts, and we call that halves. It's been cut into halves. But this one here, let's have a look at this one. If we cut along the lines, okay, if we cut along those lines, we would get 4 equal parts. We've got one there, one there, one there, one there, and that is 4 parts that are the same. So they are quarters. It's been cut into quarters, 4 equal parts. Oh, let's have a look at this one. Has this been cut into quarters? Does it show quarters? It does, doesn't it? How do you know it has been cut into quarters? We know it's been cut into quarters because each part, each piece is the same as the other pieces. Okay, so it's 4 equal parts. And if it's got 4 equal pieces, it's been cut into quarters. What about this one over here? What about over here? Has this been cut into quarters, 4 equal pieces? What do you think, children? I think it has. Because if this piece here, if you turned it around, I think it would fit on that piece. So I think that actually these pieces are all the same. So they have been cut into quarters. There are 4 quarters. Okay? Have a look at the other pictures, guys, and see which of those other pictures have been cut into quarters, have been cut into 4 equal parts. Can you tell your adult? Go on, children. Well done. Okay, guys, so this is activity sheet 4. Okay, and if you can print this out, you can have a go at doing this activity, maybe with an adult, or have a go independently if you can read it. Okay, and it says on the questions you need to shade a quarter of each shape. So for this one here, this shape is a square, and we need to shade 1/4 of the square. If we cut the square into quarters, how many equal pieces does it need to be cut into? It needs to be cut into 4 equal pieces. So before you try and do any colouring or shading, I want you to cut it into 4 equal pieces. How could you cut it into 4 quarters? I would do it like this. I'd put one line going down there, so now we've got 2 equal pieces. And if I draw another line along there, now I've got 4 equal pieces. And if I wanted to shade 1/4, I'd have to colour in There we go. There's 1/4 coloured in. Children, do you think you could find a different way of cutting the square into quarters, into 4 pieces? Give it a go. Well done, children, for today's lesson. Okay, I'm really impressed with you and really proud of you. I hope it was really helpful, and I hope that your adults are able to help you finish off the sheet, or you could see if you could use some paper and cut the paper into quarters or halves. Well done, guys. Really proud of you.